What is up, y'all? Welcome to Bitcoin Magazine Happy Hour. CK, what is up? Start us off.
Thank you for that, Tommy. You guys, we have a packed lineup and an awesome cast today. I'm CK. I am here to make sure the conversation flows, and so do the drinks. And we got a lot of folks from the Bitcoin Magazine team here, as well as a lot of folks that are making a big splash in the greater Bitcoin community. I guess I'm going to pass it off back to the HQ. Tommy and Brand holding it down. Tommy, why don't you take over?
That's right. We're here in the Bitcoin Magazine HQ in Nashville. We just got off a great Marbles stream. If you're joining us from that, thanks for joining that. It's Bitcoin Magazine Happy Hour. We're here drinking beer, talking about the one thing that all banks fear, that is Bitcoin. Bitcoin only tonight, of course. It's Bitcoin Magazine. I'm here with my coworker, my good friend, my buddy Bran, BTC, right here to the left of me. Bran, introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hey, I'm Bran. That was a great flow, Tommy. I really liked the part where you rhymed fear and banks. And you didn't say beer, which I thought you were going to say, and that would have been great. We're drinking some Kirkland IPA. I'm not an IPA guy, but,
But we are Costco guys.
We are Costco guys, so we got the Kirkland brand flowing. Gonna get a little toasty here. Can't wait. Let's introduce the panel. I guess maybe we start with Joe.
Hey, everyone. Joe here. Glad to be here. I got some Bush lattes. Going to crack, I don't know, as many as possible during this 2 hours. Going to embrace this full happy hour. See if this hangover is hurting in the morning on staff call. Glad to be here.
Last time I drank Bush lattes with Joe, I was hurting during staff call. Let's pass it over to Casey.
Yo, what's up, everyone? It's first time on the happy hour. Kind of fresh to the Bitcoin Magazine gang, but really excited to be here with everyone. I think you guys are all contributing a lot to the Bitcoin space, so just happy to be here, I guess.
We're excited to get to know you.
The bar couldn't be lower.
Damn, Joe, savage.
Jeez.
All right, let's pass it over to Katie. Katie, welcome back.
Thank you, guys. Good to be here. Yeah, it's probably my third or fourth time at Bitcoin Mag. I'm a big fan. Happy to be here every time. And I'm drinking a coconut water today.
Ooh.
Stay hydrated.
Cheers to
Fancy.
that.
Getting crazy.
Okay, Mitch.
What's up, guys? Similar to Casey, I guess this is my first go around on a Bitcoin Mag happy hour. Watched quite a few of these, and I'm excited to be here. I've got a Breckenridge Vanilla Porter.
Nice.
Nice.
That's one of my
Thevin, what are you
least favorite
drinking?
beers. Hold on. Least favorite beers of all time. Breckenridge Vanilla Porter. My God, that is the worst beer ever. I'm not just saying that.
I mean,
That's
this
an
is coming
bad
from
take.
someone who only drinks Busch Lights, but
I sold craft beer a decade ago. So I've been down the craft beer rabbit hole, and now I'm down the Bitcoin rabbit hole. And hands down, one of the worst beers of all. It's like Milwaukee's best. It's
the fiat
terrible.
of beers.
That's all I got.
All right.
Well, Breckenridge is never going to sponsor this show, but that's okay. We'll move on.
Thevin,
Yes.
what is up?
What's up, you guys? Thevin Campton here. First time on the Bitcoin Happy Hour as well. Drinking some Jefferson's Ocean.
Ooh. Get
Ocean
right,
Age.
right to business.
Out the bottle?
Yeah, are you just pulling from the bottle?
No.
Okay.
I'm not
All
a
right.
savage.
Yeah, I was going to say that could be the most savage move we've seen on this show yet. It's not too late
We've
to
seen
pull
some
it.
savage moves.
Yeah.
Maybe at the 200K party.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Yes.
200. When this show, when we're at 200K, the show's going to be a little crazy. Dylan,
I mean, it's going to be Bitcoin 2021, so
Yeah.
that's going to be crazy.
that'll be the 200K party for sure. Dylan,
What's up,
what is
guys?
up, man? Welcome.
Second time on the show. Drinking water. Yeah, just
yeah.
recently joined the Bitcoin Magazine team, so pretty pumped about that and ready to have a good rip.
Yeah, a newbie on the squad.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
And he's
Congrats.
staying hydrated.
The world doesn't really know yet, but I
Thank you.
guess now they do.
They do.
I should make an announcement on Twitter.
Basically,
That's
all
right.
of this. I can't really do it right. What am I doing? All that is Bitcoin Magazine. Half of this show, in case it mattered. All right.
I don't know what you pointed to, but yes, there's a lot of Bitcoin Mag folks here.
All this.
Guys, this has been a really exciting week for Bitcoin, for things, adjacent to Bitcoin. We're seeing Bitcoin matter on a really large scale, on a state scale in the US, on a country nationwide scale. In the macro, we're seeing Bitcoin entrepreneurs being part of a big media story, and we're going to talk about all of that today. But before we do, I want to talk about frickin' Bitcoin 2021, the 200K party, the official, unofficial 200K party. I'm pretty sure everyone here is going to be there. I mean, we have Bran who's organizing a lot of it, Tommy who's designing it. Like, I mean, first and foremost, who here doesn't have their ticket to the conference? Okay.
Safe.
Well, I'm expecting
quorum.
honesty here. I will validate this.
Fucking
Yeah, let's pull up-
centralized servers.
Don't trust, verify.
Let's pull up the order book. Yeah, dude. We can't wait for the conference to roll around. Super excited for it. We've had a few fun conversations actually today about the conference, and my God, the support has been incredible. The hype is palpable, and yeah, I just can't wait.
Yeah.
Katie, you're in Miami right now, right? Like, tell us, what's the vibe on the street? Like, what should all of us who are not in Miami get ready for?
Yeah, I was just gonna say I'm super bullish on Miami. Great choice, guys, for the venue. I mean, for the city. I'm absolutely loving it here. I just moved back a couple of months ago from Mexico, as you might know, and like I couldn't be happier. Like my life is absolutely perfect. Everything is open. The mayor is on board. We're partying. We had an amazing barbecue on Saturday with a bunch of Bitcoiners. Everybody's moving down here because that's where life is right now. That's where the freedom is. And, Bitcoiners value that. So we are all going to get together in June, and probably half of you are not going to want to leave. So, yeah.
Let's
Bitcoin is
go.
over here.
I
Next
could
Citadel
tell
is
that you've been
coming.
on the beach. You can
Oh,
see
yeah.
the beach glow for sure. So we all need a little bit of that. I'm paler than I've been in a long time, and maybe it's because stuck inside here in California.
Mhm.
Womp.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you are listening and you haven't bought your ticket, you need to do it this week. Friday, end of the day. Ticket prices are going up by $100. So, I mean, that's
Buy
a decent
low.
amount of fiat there. Those are sats that you could be stacking instead of buying a more expensive ticket. So make sure to buy that ticket this week. Use promo code Satoshi. You can see it lower on the screen, but 10% off if you use that. And yeah, take all those savings, plow them into Bitcoin. It's going to be a good time.
That's right. If you want an
All right,
extra day of content, get that whale pass. That the price of that goes up too.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're a whale, of course.
If you're a whale.
But let's jump into this,
want to
right?
be a
One of the reasons Miami is such a gem in the U.S. is kind of because the U.S. has this jurisdictional arbitrage that's built in. We're starting to see Texas, Kentucky, other folks being a part of that. What's your guys' take on kind of like this competition of jurisdictions theme that's kind of emerging, especially with Bitcoin as like a key theme in that competition, right? Miami is doing something different, and their mayor just happens to be, really into crypto and just talking to all the people who are into Bitcoin. Like, I don't think that is just a coincidence. Who has an opinion here? Let's someone jump in.
Yeah. I think it's the geographical free market at work, right? I'm in California right now, like you, and it's just totally different world than what Miami's described as by Katie. So I think right now it's just like a wave of what was to be expected as soon as like something like this happened, where there would be big differences in policy between states and all that sort of stuff. And I think this is just pushed forward by everything going on right now, and obviously Miami and Florida at large wants to kind of capitalize on that. And that's respectable. That's them just using their free market power, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like the states that are trying to give us more freedom is trying to attract us by the opportunities they give or the benefits of being here they give. And then you watch local news of like Boulder or North California, and they're like, no, Florida is like everybody's dying, it's all bad there. So they don't really want people to travel, and they want to believe that whatever you are in is everywhere else, which is absolutely not true. Like there are jurisdictions that are more suitable for you right now, and you can pick up your shit and go. And especially with Bitcoin, it's much easier. You can just remember a couple of words.
Yeah, right. And with, like you said, with Bitcoin, everything is easier, especially moving jurisdictions and moving spaces and all that. And with the whole work from home technology, that's even becoming more so, more true. And I think that's just playing into the whole ability of people to choose where they want to live and what they want to experience.
Yep. So an individual thesis playing out. I can
Right.
see
Yep,
you pointing,
according to the most
CK.
important book in Bitcoin.
I think one of the things that's pretty cool is like a cool development is like before this year or 2020, like a lot of the talk was like the jurisdictional arbitrage of like nation states, like kind of like that framework. But one of the things that wasn't talked about too much before 2020, 2021 was like the jurisdictional arbitrage in the states or like municipalities, states. And that's something that is like very, very powerful in the US, where you have, like people like Mayor Suarez saying like, hey, bring the talent here. And all these tech companies, all these individuals, like there's no commercial real estate, like they just pick up and leave. Like Coinbase, I mean, fuck Coinbase, but like they don't even have an office space. They're completely remote. And what are they, a $50 billion company when they IPO? So like that's pretty powerful. And not only at the state level, like also at the municipality level, you're gonna have like I mean, we'll get to it, but like with Kentucky, there's gonna be a lot of cities, especially like the resource rich geographies where like they integrate Bitcoin mining in their energy grids and all of that, and like or like a wealth fund, right? Like in Alaska, that's really powerful, and that's something that I don't think is talked about enough.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I
mean,
think I agree there. Go ahead, Mitch.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's the same thing like that you see on an individual basis just playing out in cities and states. Like Michael Saylor, as an early adopter, could become one of the wealthiest people in the world in a few years or a decade. And you could see the same thing play out with a city like Miami or a state like Kentucky, who's not really super well known in the States as a state. But if they go full on and embrace Bitcoin mining, that could change really quickly in 5 or 10 years.
Joe, you're in Arkansas, right? We're
Yeah.
all doxing each other. Arkansas, I don't even know a city in Arkansas, but if some city in Arkansas just started mining a shit ton of Bitcoin and hodling it, like they could be the next New York City for like all we know. It's just, I mean, third world countries could become the United States of Bitcoin. Like you never know.
We've got a nuclear power plant not too far from where I live. So it's like, I know y'all got some excess power, fellas. I keep trying to slide in the governor's DM, but back to what Dylan was saying, something that kind of got me excited thinking about was this whole attitude about the states having some sovereignty. And I feel like in my whole lifetime, this is the first time that I've seen governors and states flex some muscle against the state, against the federal government. I know they really haven't done shit yet, but essentially governors are telling the state to go fuck themselves. I know they're the state too, but they are flexing some sovereignty. And I think that's really exciting to see. And I think that we're kind of seeing firsthand just how much power governors do have and how much sovereignty individual United States have. So this is pretty exciting to see. And sovereign individual thesis kind of playing out before our very eyes. Real exciting.
I also feel like a lot of it is still coming from like citizens of the state, because in some states, governors are very supportive of like non-musking and free market, but the citizens will be like, no, we're fine. Like the COVID is, I'm afraid and stuff. But in Florida and Texas, even before they canceled mask and everything, like Florida and Floridians and Texans were like against this stuff to begin with, and those are the people who like forcing your hand as a governor to like, dude, we're not gonna deal with that. We're gonna protest, we're gonna disobey and all that stuff. So that's definitely forcing them as well. And as I was moving back to the States, I was considering only two states, Florida and Texas. First of all, it's always easy to flee the country if you're next to the border. From Texas, you basically just, jump to Mexico. And from Florida, you can always flee by boat. And it was so cool that like the only two states that are actually fighting this shit and moving forward with bringing freedom back to the individuals, to their citizens, is Florida and Texas. So which one are we picking for the Citadel?
You could have one in both.
I think to your
Could be
point
both.
too, like this whole the Greg Abbott announcing that they were, ending the lockdown, ending the masks, going back to normal, I feel like is going to be ultimately like the shot heard around the world. I mean, this is going to flip very quickly from everyone's afraid of COVID and wanting to isolate and social distance and lock down to everyone's going to race to open up. And you're going to see like the first mover advantage really, really entrench itself into Texas and, also Florida and Miami, obviously, and some of these other states who are early on the go, because, ultimately everyone in the world, or at least everyone in the United States, has probably a bit of fatigue from just life in this COVID world and having all these social pressures, and people are ready. Like, people are ready to re-enter the real world and re-enter the physical world. So I'm really excited to kind of watch what happens. I think it can be dominoes that really quickly fall, and we'll see a lot of states kind of take Texas's lead.
I've seen
What's
guys
interesting,
once
too-
tweet. Go ahead.
I was going to say it's interesting too, because for Texas, it's almost a momentum play, because I work in office commercial real estate, as some of you may know, but Texas has obviously been the beneficiary of a lot of companies and individuals moving out of the high tax regions, LA, San Francisco, California. And for them to say, we're essentially opening up 100%, that's good for business. It's good for small business. It's good for larger business as well. So I think this could be a pretty substantial flippening of capital and talent out of the higher tax regions and West Coast into Texas and Florida, for that matter.
Yeah. Guys, one tweet that I wanted to mention when he was saying is like, guys, if you want masks, like in Texas, you can still wear them. And that's really important case for like, this is what libertarians are. We are for non-aggression principle. We're not telling you that you can't wear a mask. We're not enforcing our beliefs on you. We pretty much want the choice. And that's pretty much what libertarianism is all about. Like, if you want to wear a mask, go for it. If you want to stay in your pod and eat bugs, like, do it. We don't care. Just give us the choice. And that's the important thing that we want here.
You bigot.
Stay in
Well,
the
the thing
pod and
is
eat your
that-
bugs.
The thing is that if you have a choice, then there's no way that you're going to get people to consent to that lifestyle.
I don't know.
So that's like the dilemma that let's call it like left weird, energy shaming type of mentality, political correctness mentality leads to.
I don't know. I'm ready for my my cricket oatmeal. Well, I don't know how we got on that, but jurisdictional
me.
arbitrage is a powerful thing. I think the best thing to do would be to set up one citadel on the east coast of Texas and then another on the west coast of Florida, so that you can yacht back and forth between your two citadels. That's just a no-brainer to me.
I'm in.
Yeah. Hopefully one of you Bitcoiners out there, I just gave you an idea. Invite me to your citadel.
He's a very good designer. He's well worth the spot in the Citadel.
Ooh, yeah. You put me up in your citadel and I'll make some art. That's a promise.
So CK, I don't want to jump the gun, but like the other crazy kind of jurisdictional arbitrage thing that happened was Kentucky. Do we want to get into that a little bit?
Yeah, let's do it.
You take it away.
Okay.
So this is why
I
the
mean,
show
have you
needs
guys been
music.
following this developing story out of Kentucky around this recent bill that just passed?
So I was reading about it yesterday and today, and it sounds like there's two bills, right? One in the House and one in the Senate. The House bill essentially exempts mining companies from the 6% sales tax on energy, which at scale is huge. And the Senate bill is additional incentives if they have a capital investment over 1 million.
Which is going to be most mining companies.
Right.
So I think the House bill is actually more than just energy cost exemption. It was all cost exemption from the from taxes. It was like a complete, if this is going towards cryptocurrency mining, tax exempt on the state level.
It's pretty powerful.
Just
I mean, that's a
bullish to hear.
huge incentive. And it's just crazy to read it where they're like cryptocurrency mining with the use of blockchain technology. It's like they didn't say Bitcoin, but
So
it
It
pretty
is
much means
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
Does that
Yeah.
make a Bitcoin mining operation like a church? Like
Hashtag tax exempt status.
Can we go to church in a Bitcoin mining facility now? Because in Kentucky, and it counts,
I think those are called saunas.
right? It's a different type of worship.
I actually you know what Michael Saylor would say here? He would be something like, well, it makes sense because there's no taxable event. You're not actually selling the electricity in order to mine. You're basically storing the energy in a different form. So there's no actual buy sell event.
You're
So it makes
capturing
sense,
that
right?
electricity into math.
I don't know about that argument, Katie, but what they're saying is more powerful. They're saying like, if you're spending money to mine in Kentucky, you don't have to pay taxes on your costs, which is, I mean, that's saying miners, come here. We have
Yeah, where do you-
energy. We want your business. And we know you're not even going to bring that many jobs, but
Yeah.
still come here.
Yeah, it's like, where do you think all the miners are going to be setting up now? Not in Kentucky. Like, obviously, once you propose that, other states either have to follow or accept a disadvantage in attracting that competition.
What are the abundant energy sources in Kentucky? Like, I don't really know. Like, what's their main source of power?
They have natural gas. They have fracking.
Nice.
I feel like they also probably have coal,
Yeah,
but I'm
something
not
tells me
100%
coal.
sure on that.
Those who were bad boys and girls last year.
Yeah, let's not talk about the coal too much, but even still, most likely it'll lead to some sort of better energy allocation. A way I like to talk about the energy usage of Bitcoin, right, is most adults have seen an energy bill, and all energy bills have like peak time and what your prices are during those peak times, and then the trough where energy is cheap. That if you're going to use your energy, do it then, is what they want to encourage. But what most people don't understand is that all the energy facilities for their city have to create peak time energy all the time. So if you just explain to them like that peak time energy all the time is pretty much being wasted, and that's what Bitcoin uses, they start to kind of understand in a really real way how like Bitcoin's using wasted energy. So I think that that's still going to absolutely be the case for Kentucky. Otherwise, they wouldn't give up all their state revenue. Effectively, they're saying we don't want any revenue for you doing this activity in Kentucky, which only makes sense if there's actually utility there for the state.
Has the bill passed? Or it's just proposed at this point?
I believe it's
Um,
proposed.
I'm gonna pull it up again.
Yeah,
but
it'll
I
be
thought that
exciting to
there-
see how quick someone makes a move, because you got to believe they'll be announcing it.
I'd be
Get that-
curious to hear the arguments against it.
I don't think anyone here has.
I don't think anyone here would argue against it, but I'd be curious to hear what they would
Just
come
like
up
it would
with.
only be journos with pronouns in their bio. That's it.
Yeah, I'm sure it's the classic energy FUD.
Yeah.
Right.
Because, all the energy problems that we've had thus far, we can attribute to Bitcoin and the past 12 years. makes makes all the sense.
Definitely not the
So-
$30 trillion of debt.
So it has not been passed yet, but it has been effectively rubber stamped by a committee in the House by a 19-2 vote. So now it's entering into a formal vote where they will actually decide whether or not to put it into action. But I guess this is step one, is like getting committee approval to like even get to this stage.
19-2. That's
I'm
that's
gonna
pretty
keep
good.
playing dumb, like I didn't read the article. So this also applies to data center operators in general, correct? So like Amazon, Google, Facebook, etc. Anyone who's doing some kind of public cloud infrastructure, is that right?
Yeah, was Bitcoin specifically mentioned, or is it just
So if you pull it up, it says commercial mining of cryptocurrency using blockchain technology
Mm.
Wow.
specifically.
Okay, totally read something
Yeah, so
else.
it's not like oh, I mean, this is the Kentucky General Assembly House Bill 230. And yeah, it relates to commercial mining of cryptocurrency using
Yep.
blockchain technology.
Can you believe that we're sitting here and like this is state legislature talking about this? Of all places, Kentucky's not a fucking hotbed for technology, people. You know, it's just
Yeah.
like a notch above Arkansas. That ain't saying much.
It'd be a lot
This is pretty
cooler.
fucking crazy, man.
It'd be a lot cooler if the legislation, if the bill said like mining of Bitcoin and no shit coins or anything of that nature. Because now, like, what does this invite? Really, like, think about it. I just said that you could start a church in your mining facility. Well, what if it's a church of not Bitcoin? I mean, it doesn't scare me so much,
But-
as much as it scares me for people, right? Like,
Market's clear, man. Let them
Is-
do it.
yeah, I guess.
So
the market
yeah,
will
I was
figure
gonna
it
bring
out.
this up. So like a lot of Bitcoiners, especially 2017, 2018, 2019, like led a very aggressive anti-crypto, anti-blockchain, buzzword kind of campaign, right? Because it was Bitcoin, not blockchain. This is about Bitcoin. Stop noising it up. But what we're seeing here is, I mean, obviously they give a shit about Bitcoin. They don't like, there's no mining activity that's not Bitcoin. Like we know that because of comparing Bitcoin hash rate to everything else. We know that all the mining activity is Bitcoin, but they're using these buzzwords to justify it. Like maybe this bill is less palatable if it said Bitcoin. Like
Yeah,
the fact that like
Yeah.
almost like cryptocurrency blockchain, that's like a Trojan horse for Bitcoin. Like
Yeah,
I
you've
actually
already
I
convinced
see it
me.
as like it's positive.
I've already changed my mind. It's about letting the market learn, but yeah, it's code word for Bitcoin. We all know it. Crypto
As
is
Jimmy
is
Song
code
would
word for
say,
Bitcoin usually.
crypto is mental masturbation.
So I've got a question for you guys. What do you think the next state will be after Kentucky? Who's the next one to FOMO in to bring mining into the state?
I think Joe could be governor of Arkansas over there pretty soon if he brings mining.
I don't have any cousins to,
Oh shit.
you know.
Well, I did read, I think Arkansas is the 5th most affordable place to have Bitcoin mining. So he may be onto something.
Send links. I don't
Mm.
believe that shit. We do have a lot of natural gas though. We are in the Fayetteville Shell, so I don't know. I always think about it like, you know, what is the opportunity? Is there stranded gas out there? I'm sure there is, but probably not as much as some other states.
I feel like we should always have one of the stranded gas miner boys on this show. We
It
got to have
always
a
comes
token
up.
one every single show because it always comes up. It's so interesting and awesome. And, they just know so much, whether it's Steve Barber, Denver, or Marty, or Storm, all those guys are 100%.
I
Yep.
mean, stranded gas mining boys. That's like the dopest name for anything that I've ever heard. So I feel like I'll
Punk
invest
rock.
in that. Like,
Yeah.
show me where to put my money.
You got the taco plebs. You got the stranded gas mining boys.
We're making some real progress here.
I think there's some it's not the same as the Kentucky bill, but like some of the stuff that they have in like North Dakota and like where a lot of the fracking is, like they have actually incentives to mine through it's like penalties for flaring. It's like kind of the same thing. It's rather than an incentive, it's a disincentive to for the status quo, which actually incentivizes, bringing in those containers and all the mining rigs and all that. So, I mean, it's different, but I mean, kind of has the same effect. Everything's bullish for Bitcoin.
Disincentives are the fiat version of incentives. That's what I don't always say, but now I'm always going to say it.
Yeah. So I did a podcast with Andy Edstrom and Peter McCormick, and they're talking about like what's the best way to frame Bitcoin, and they brought up this idea of framing Bitcoin from a carrot versus stick perspective, right? So like the fiat world, they say, hey, we don't want you to do that. We're gonna fine you if you do that. Whereas Bitcoin is like, oh, we have all of this excess natural gas. Like, let's align incentives. Like, let's reward you. You make money by mining Bitcoin and by actually using that wasted energy instead of having someone kind of like watching over your back, flying over your gas fields, making sure that you flare with a stick. So it's a very like cool differentiator to see like Bitcoin is positive reinforcement, the state is negative reinforcement. You can kind of frame it in ways that appeal outside of just like the hard money libertarian freedom perspective.
Yeah, I think Bitcoin's really good at that, at giving multiple viewpoints on essentially what's the same thing, right? Or just giving like multiple access points to Bitcoin itself, and presenting itself in multiple ways.
Where do we go next? Who wants to riff off that?
I want to ask what Memphis means. Joe.
He just likes the city.
Yeah, but he had a tweet earlier today, and there was no answer when I
Making
checked.
easy money, pimping hoses, serious. 666 Mafia, no big deal. But I saw Flip, who is on vacation. He said something about sats. I'll pull it up. Give me a second. I'll pull it up. It was a much better Bitcoiner slogan. I've been lobbying 666 to get into Bitcoin, and they just will not respond. They are in that fiat mindset, and it's really sad. They could uplift the community there in Memphis real quick.
Have fun staying poor.
That's right.
Yes.
It's honestly, it's an amazing contrast to see like the fiat status mindset where like literally like you will own nothing and you will be happy is like the narrative. And then the Bitcoiner narrative is like, personal responsibility, reaping what you deserve. Like it's such a different kind of mentality. Like which one is toxic in your mind?
This will be funny to see how like the states they were, on top for the last 10, 20 years. So it would be cities like San Francisco, New York, let's say. Like they were so good at figuring out how to stay rich and comfy during the fiat times, so they don't really want to change anything. And those who need it the most, like South Dakota or Kentucky, are like moving forward with new things that will make them rich now. And San Francisco and New York will have fun staying poor.
Yeah, leveling up the playing field, right?
Yeah.
I think Bitcoin does that, especially like you said, for those states. And that's like the whole stranded energy thing, right? Is places that were totally unmonetizable, if that's a word, they can suddenly become profitable and hugely profitable if they have the right energy.
Mitch, I haven't heard you chime in.
Yeah, no, it reminds me of what Ross Stevens said in his talk about stranded energy and kind of what it could look like in the future. Like right now you have all these big cities and we have to transport energy to the big city. And his theory is in the future, you'll see big cities that build up around the stranded energy sources because you can just consume that energy on site. You don't have to transport it anywhere.
Stranded gas. Theory. I'm a believer. I think there's something to the stranded gas mining boys thing.
So, I think we had this conversation a long time ago on here, kind of going back and forth about whether we will see a reorganization of, cities popping up around energy sources versus around, ease of transportation sources, like the classic springing up around a river or a coastline or, a nice weather area. And I think it's a curious thing. I don't think we ever resolved really which direction we think it's going to go, because there's a lot of good arguments kind of on both sides. Like, will New York City give way to random city in Texas with 1,000 wind farms? Like, is that going to happen? I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think money talks, right? If the wind farm in Texas is being more economically profitable for people involved, I think that in itself kind of solves the answer, right? It's just if that actually happens, if they can reach that point of being, better than the big cities and the big locations. If that happens, yeah, why not?
Yeah, it's like what benefits can a city offer its citizen? And some cities have certain natural advantages that smaller cities might have to. They might have a challenge keeping up with those, but at the same time, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, which is if you're an early adopter city right now and you put Bitcoin on your balance sheet like a Miami, your citizens might not have to pay taxes like ever. And so that's a pretty big incentive compared to New York City. If they're a late adopter of Bitcoin, they're going to have to catch up somehow by raising taxes on their citizens, presumably.
At this point, nobody should pay taxes in the United States. How much money do they need to print to figure out that taxes is like 1% of the new budget? What the fuck? Who cares? It's only a control instrument. It doesn't build your roads. Your roads are fucking built from the printing.
Right. It's just part of the game they set up. And what about the
Well-
positive feedback loop that happens from being incentivized by Bitcoin to have clean and efficient and abundant energy sources to build a community around and have it be built around Bitcoin, both as like the the flag or whatever of the city, and just like what incentivizes everything monetarily to keep everything moving, like one of those old dirty coal mine, not to shit on coal mines, but like I'm just picturing like a town that was just reliant on like an old coal mining thing, and it's like that, but we're putting it in the future and with Bitcoin instead of coal. And it's like everyone wants to talk about Bitcoin and the environment. Bitcoin is going to incentivize clean energy more than anything. What I don't know if we want to stay on this mining in Kentucky.
Well, talking
I'm
about
actually-
coal miners, right? I think that's a great example of at one point, civilizations did organize around energy production, right? And it wasn't until the transportation logistics and kind of infrastructure got built out that cities maybe could be built around geographies and stuff like other aspects that weren't necessarily tied towards just straight up energy production. I feel like it could be in between, because honestly, I think we're just going to have more choice than ever in the future. And that's going to enable, cities that are really energy rich to emerge, but that's also going to enable people to have choice in, different, kind of, civilizations that are around different kind of geographies. But what I am super bullish on is like the active competition, right? Like, I think Katie has really experienced this, but most of us, we're really very used to like, hey, we're born here. We are, we're going to stay here. We're captive. This is what life is going to be like. And, most of us are Westerners, in this slice of history, that's been pretty good place to be. But, the fact that if I'm born here, I'm stuck here, this is what reality is like that sucks for like 90% of the world. That freaking sucks. Like you're being dunked on by everyone, and you have nothing to help you, and you're living in poverty, and you have no way to accumulate wealth and get out. So, I mean, to some degree, Bitcoin is really a flattening effect, right? And is kind of changing that reality, and jurisdictions competing with each other and trying to attract people, that is it. Like, that's the game. That's why we're here. So it's really awesome to talk with you guys about examples of seeing that start to emerge and become reality.
What do you guys think is the end game here? Like, do you think that in the next couple years we're gonna see like a real bifurcation of, you know, states that want to be open, want to, you know, continue to consume energy, and, you know, people who eat meat, and, you know, the other side, which will be, you know, trying to conserve all energy, staying, you know, isolated, you know, maximizing for safety? Like, do you think that that's going to be a real bifurcation, or do you think there's going to be, you know, a re-coming together?
I think there's, not to be like a conspiracy theorist, but like there's definitely something going on with like the whole Davos crew and like that world order of like, you know what I mean? It's like the lockdowns are good. Look at all these metrics. And it's like the cities are quiet now. And it's like you'll own nothing and be happy by 2030. And I think like, you know, the global elite have this kind of vision of like neo-communism in the digital age where like, you know, you get your UBI to spend and live in your pod, and like, you know, because 8 billion people in the digital age, like there's a big change, and we're kind of living through it, and like a lot of people don't really understand that change of like the New York City, San Francisco. Why would you live there, pay $2,000 to have one room when you can live anywhere in the world and work from your laptop? I mean, we're all communicating right here. Like that, The internet changed the game. And so you can live and make an income anywhere. I mean, Katie's a great example of that. You weren't like, people are done being tax slaves, and these municipalities, these states, I mean, even the countries, United States or whatever, like there's going to be a power grab. But ultimately, I mean, you know, Bitcoin, the internet, it's too powerful to take over, to capture.
To go deeper into the conspiracy theories, I just realized that you will own nothing and be happy is literally have fun staying poor in different words.
Yeah.
Therefore, Udi's fucking part of the Davos crew.
Yeah, it's like the fiat super monster. It's literally like a video game. You have the mega boss at the end. It's this new world order fiat monster and versus Satoshi and all the Satoshis. Like it's crazy. I mean, it's like a movie, and it's happening right in front of us, and we are all part of it. Yeah, have fun staying poor. That's fiat as fuck if you don't think about it in terms of Bitcoin.
I don't know about y'all, but I honestly would be extremely happy owning nothing but UTXOs and doing my thing. I mean, you know, rent anything you want, live life, move around, spend a little if you want. But no, I mean,
one of my most popular tweets was Bitcoin will enable extreme minimalism. And then I retweeted it saying Bitcoiners own nothing but Bitcoins, rent everything else. And that tweet blew up. So I think that's definitely part of the vibe.
Yeah, I'm selling my car right after this.
I moved back to Miami, and I didn't bring my car back to the US, and I've been walking 10,000 steps on average. It feels really good, actually. Well, Miami also a good spot to walk around.
Yeah.
What's the best part of Miami?
I would say my part, but I can't dox myself too much, so.
Or you should have just not led with that and just said what you thought was the best.
Yeah, I'm like giving a list.
The beach.
An unordered list.
I'll show you guys. Whenever you're here, I'll show you the best parts of Miami.
That's right. The best parts of Miami are Bitcoin 2021. Get your ticket. Use promo code Satoshi.
Right.
What's our next topic, CK?
Well, I wanted to actually riff a little bit on what Katie said. You know, I feel like going into 2020, I was in a state of like so much risk and like debt and amount of like just cost to life that I didn't really appreciate until it really, like, I had this reset of minimizing risk just getting back into, stacking sats and kind of not worrying about everything else. And I cannot tell you how freeing it was to like just take some of that risk off the table and like take the weight off and really just refocus on kind of saving money with Bitcoin and cooking my own food and not eating out every day and re-engaging kind of with that core lifestyle that this seems like so profound and also really dumb because like isn't that obvious, but I guess it wasn't obvious to me.
Well, you finally got a microwave?
I do have a microwave.
Who
There's
nuking
no way you're
food?
cooking food.
I never nuke my food.
I do sometimes, but it's faster.
Until you have kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. So go for it, Casey.
I was just gonna say, yeah, totally. I can totally relate with that. That Bitcoin has just totally changed the way that I live and made me somewhat minimalist, I guess you could say. And I think that's like something that a lot of people experience once they start repricing their life in sats, right?
Yeah, look at you. You got like one small painting behind you and a potted plant. I
It's
think
it's
you're
literally a
stacking every
tape.
sat you can get, right?
It's a paper that's taped to the wall. It has no frame, so
It's amazing.
I bet you borrowed that tape too.
yeah, it's my dad's tape. That's not mine.
I didn't frame it yet, but check this
Oh,
out.
wow.
Oh shit! Look at that.
Look at that.
Damn.
Cool, huh?
Am I on there?
Yeah, who's on there?
Probably all on
Oh, I think
there.
I see my little logo right there.
Yeah, so Katie doesn't even use tape. She just uses her hand to show it when she wants to show it and then takes it back down.
Yeah, that's really plebe right there.
Push pin minimalist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nails are a expense that you don't
Bitcoin
need.
Mag.
Let's go.
Yes.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool
I'm
project.
waiting for the frame. Yeah,
So
yes.
we kind of talked about this a little bit, but it's also on our list of things to talk about. So I want to bring it back up, but Texas just kind of putting their foot down and saying like we're opening up. Like, what do you guys anticipate is the effect of this, right? So I think like we're scattered across the U.S. for the most part on this panel. I'm in California. There's other folks in California. There's other folks from Colorado where let's just say it's things are being taken more seriously. People are very compliant. Like, what do you think the end result is for both, like maybe let's call it red states versus the blue states?
The end result is everybody's coming for BitDevs Austin next month. Show.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great thing to do. There's multiple reasons to fly to Texas. You got the Dallas barbecues, and then you have the BitDevs meetups in Austin.
And they're day after day. So Thursday is BitDevs Austin. Friday is Dallas barbecue. So you can just come in, attend both, and go home.
Skip
Or-
Houston.
Pretty much. Oh no, actually they started meetups in Houston too. I believe the first one is on 25th. See?
I mean, anecdotally, I live in a very blue state. People are still under, like, I mean, we live kind of in our own little echo chamber of like, let me be, leave me alone. I don't even like the word libertarianism. It's like, just use Bitcoiner now, but people are triple masking. Like you walk past someone in a grocery store and it's like it's like brainwashed. So I mean, and even like my age group, my generation, like all the college kids wearing masks outside, it's like madness. So I don't think that goes away. I mean, it's going to be like, oh, there's a mutant strain of this disease, and I think it goes on for a while, but obviously like it's your choice to comply at the individual level, but I think this is going to drag on probably for a while.
And it's one thing to wear a mask because you want to wear a mask and that's a personal choice of yours, but it's another thing for it to be mandated by the government and for there to be penalties for not having a mask on and for that going into perpetuity. So it's there's obviously, if you want to wear a mask, it might happen. I've seen people say like it's just going to be more like it was in China where people are just wearing a mask because they're wearing a mask. The air quality is poor or something. we'll probably still see people wear masks for a while, but will the governments ease up on the mandates?
Dude, the thing that's sad to me about like the double triple mask thing is like, the shill for a mask is like it reduces your chance of getting COVID to like basically 1% or something like that. But, a double mask reduces it to like 0.5%. And people doing this extra, like, you have to be so scared at that point to like have to care that much about 1% chance versus 0.5% chance, and then like a 0.25% chance or whatever. I just think it's like really sad. I mean, the people who are doing this, it's not like they're I mean, maybe some of them are trying to virtue signal, but I think there's a lot of people who are just doing it because like they've been whipped up into absolute terrified state by people who we're supposed to be able to trust, and like we're supposed to be able to think have our best interest and are working to help people get through this thing. And it's just really sad to me that like we've come to the point where there's no logic in what we're trying to do with this anymore, and there's going to be some amount of people who will be pushed towards like some semblance of agoraphobia because the risk is always out there, and you can never be totally de-risked, and so you have to do everything you can to just never see the light of day again. I just find it sad.
And you look at people as just like germ spreaders, like so I mean that's where it starts to get a little much, right?
The gym I go to,
digress.
it's like 2 minutes from my house, so it's just convenient. But the gym I go to, there's full-time employees, like 2 or 3 of them in there all the time, that'll walk around the entire gym and like pull your mask up, like it's like dropped over, like they're literally just mask enforcers. That's their job. It's madness.
I mean, that's one way to not have UBI. Just give everyone a job pointing at people's noses when they're visible.
This is perfect.
Well, someone said UBI, so I want to just jump in and say that like I'm a big advocate of UBI, and I was a big Andrew Yang supporter, and I obviously see it from a Bitcoin lens where like fiat and the fiat system is the enemy. UBI is euthanasia for the fiat system, so that people can have like a fighting chance to get out the other side with some sats, instead of just being like the light turns on all of a sudden one day and they were in the dark the whole time and now they're not, and it's like, holy shit, wait a minute, I don't have any money, I have $0, like nothing worth anything. And it's like, if you have UBI and you start to kind of educate people and like wean them off the fiat system in a way that's responsible toward and Bitcoin forward, then it's one thing. If you use it as kind of like a way to foster dependency even further and create this system of total falling
But the
into
latter is what's
communism.
going to happen.
Yeah, well, that's
The
what they're
latter
going
is
to
what's
try to
going
do.
to happen.
But that's the thing. So you can have UBI from Elizabeth Warren, or you can have UBI from somebody who's a Bitcoiner and understands it. Like, I think UBI, maybe we shouldn't discount it right away, because I think the alternative is basically revolutionary war. So
yeah,
but that's just me.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of like jokes about UBI, but mostly what I think about is like the transition between fiat and Bitcoin isn't a very like easy transition, I don't think. And
especially when people can't pay their bills, so it's like,
right,
I got $10 to allocate towards sats this week. You know what I mean? It's like if you have a little bit of UBI, you have more to allocate towards sats and savings.
Right. Yeah, you read about like the historical time periods of inflation, like Weimar and stuff, and it's not easy for a lot of people. They like lose everything. And I think there's a lot to be said for like what could be done to make that transition less painful for people who don't have a lot, because obviously like the Jeff Bezos in the world, they can just drop it all on Bitcoin once they understand, once that comes to.
And how do you do UBI in a way that still, it might still happen kind of overnight, right? Like,
right.
It's but I mean, the time to do it is, and the time to kind of get people off of fiat in a peaceful way is slowly ticking away, and it's short than fast or whatever, right?
Short than fast, yeah.
Something like
Yeah,
that.
as a Bitcoin accelerationist, I mean, yeah, UBI is a great idea. I think for the average person, I mean, for the last 13 years, 12 years, you've had QE, which pumps asset prices, housing, stocks, bonds. You know, you could be just an idiot, and if you're sitting in asset prices over the last 4 decades, you know, if you're a boomer and you're not a millionaire, what the hell have you been doing? Like, so and you have, like, you know,
Facts.
plebs.
Like, if you have a
And
house, come on.
yeah, no, I mean, you just sit there and rates get pushed to zero, and you make out like a bandit. And, you know, the plebs, like the millennials, own nothing, and that's, you know, they come out of college, there's a financial crisis, they're saddled with debt, they can't get in the housing market, and you have all these people who don't understand the monetary system, and they're pissed off because their rent goes up every year. And they're like, what the hell, you know? And so I think UBI, like, is a pretty terrible idea for, you know, like the system, but I think it could serve as a transition.
Yeah, don't we want the
And
system?
it would definitely speed it up for sure. Because yeah, I mean, the average person, like, there's no, like, 50% of the country has zero savings and they live paycheck to paycheck. Even people that make a lot of money, like, it's just that incentive of fiat, just whether they even know it or not, they're on a treadmill.
Yeah, I like the euthanasia analogy. I think that's a good way to put it. It's just killing it a little bit softer.
Well, yeah, it's
and
being
to
open
piggyback-
about it. It's being open about it, the fact that this system was built to die eventually, and like people are going to get crushed by it, and it's dying. And there's you know, there's a thing here, like a raft or a gateway
Escape
to
route?
the
Yeah.
heavens, and it's open. It's right there, but obviously, like, it's not going to be open forever when the U.S. dollar is worth nothing. You got to get your sats while the getting's good. It's tricky, right? How do you enact UBI and admit that that the fiat's failing, and then not have it
It's
just
not politically expedient. The only way that you facilitate it is for political expedience, in my opinion. I want to go to Mitch.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, like, in a vacuum, I don't think UBI makes sense. Like, if we were starting a system from scratch, UBI doesn't make sense. But to Dylan's point, like, people have been wrecked for 12 years and really like 50 years. If you look at, like, WTF happened in 1971. And so if you're going to print copious amounts of money, you might as well give it to the people who have been wrecked for the last, like, 12 or 50 years. Like, if the reality of the situation is you're going to print boatloads of money, you might as well give it to the people who have been hurt the most. I guess that's kind of my view on it.
My question is how it would work on international arena. Like, how do you see it play out between, like, international relationship?
Yeah, it basically enriches Americans and makes everyone who's transacting on the US dollar internationally poorer, right? If that were to
Maybe it's
happen.
at first, but then we know how the continuing effect happens and, like, all that stuff. And then it
Depends
does
on
it
if
all
they
the way
convert
around.
the dollars to sats or not.
Well, yeah, I
If
guess
they
at
just
the end of the
keep it
day,
in
all
dollars,
it is,
in the long term,
That's
it's just gonna get
basically-
wrecked.
it's a game of who can make a piece of paper worth the most amount of sats and then trade it for that amount of sats as fast as possible before the next person, you know, their paper's worth a little more the next day or whatever, and you know, eventually your paper's not worth shit. But it's like, yeah, who internationally? I mean, it's just a.
But see, mentally, Americans are least prepared for that. Like, a lot of other countries
if you
have
told
seen
the average person, you
hyperinflation.
tell them the U.S. dollar is going to fail, they look at you like you're crazy. And
Yeah.
and
They
it won't
trust that
fail
thing.
if they start another war. Like, if like that's what it's propped up on, right? Like, if they can find a way to make it valuable, if they can find, you know, blood to trade it for or whatever, then we'll be back to square one.
So my take is that Bitcoin ends that game, because you can't start a war to make the dollar more valuable in a world where Bitcoin exists. Like, Bitcoin is obsoleting the dollar no matter what.
Make war unaffordable.
I mean, it's just no matter what. Like, there's nothing they can do. Like, whenever I hear central bankers talk about CBDCs, I'm like, you don't understand. You're talking about something that's not in production yet. Bitcoin is already in production. Bitcoin's already this massive market. It's already $1 trillion market. How are you gonna start from where you're at now and then surpass it? It's just not gonna happen.
And
no Bitcoiner is going to support bomb strikes
yeah,
on a non-threat. Like, not happening.
Exactly. And if you try to issue war bonds, how many of us are going to buy a war bond with Bitcoin in existence? Like, there's just not going to be the demand for it.
That'll be the day they try to sell a war bond for Bitcoin. They're accepting Bitcoin for their war bonds. Lucho, if you're watching, make the poster before I do. All right.
Thevin, I haven't heard from you from a minute. You want to jump in?
Yeah, so someone mentioned Elizabeth Warren a while ago, and this is changing the subject a little bit, but I found it interesting how when she was on CNBC, she's generally a very outspoken person, and she did not use her opportunity to take a shit on Bitcoin. She just said, Yellen's a very smart woman, and she left no room for interpretation. Do we think she owns some Bitcoin?
The Fudsters
I
usually do.
She's not even a fudster, but I mean, a lot of people have called Bitcoin a call option.
Calling it
No, she
doomed
said
to
that
fail.
she is in a high place, and I think people in high places have schmuck insurance against themselves.
I
Well,
hope she
someone was
doesn't have
saying-
any.
someone was saying that since Tesla owns Bitcoin, anyone who has exposure to the S&P 500 has exposure to Tesla and therefore has exposure to Bitcoin. So I guess you could extrapolate.
No, you either own Bitcoin or not owning Bitcoin.
That's a good point right there.
There's no owning Bitcoin through proxies.
Yeah, that's true.
So Thevin, why don't you kind of extrapolate on like kind of your analysis of her like what she said, as well as like maybe just like the bigger picture on what you think is happening on a political scene. It sounds like you like there's this term fifth pillar, that like this additional pillar of the government, which is like government insiders that own Bitcoin.
Yeah, well, I didn't put a whole lot of thought into it, but I kind of thought about it. I was like, if Elizabeth owns Bitcoin, can she come out on the air and say that Bitcoin is bad for the environment, or Bitcoin's, going to end poorly, so on and so forth, when, let's say in 6 months, we find out that she's owned Bitcoin ever since March of 19.
Yeah, she's a public figure, right? Or a public servant even.
And she's not, she's pretty wealthy. So when you have wealth, if you want to preserve wealth typically, and you don't understand Bitcoin, you diversify. So I'm sure she has some direct exposure to Bitcoin.
Yeah, I don't think she got where she is by being not smart, even though she is a socialist. She's probably one of those socialists that
It's worked out pretty good for her.
Yeah, wants to be the head of the party. Right.
It's funny. People in government who push for socialism typically aren't struggling by any means.
Rules for thee, not for me.
Exactly.
So Thevin, like Colorado is kind of on the Texas border. I know things are, a lot more kind of compliant with the textbook rule set there. Not to change the subject back to jurisdictional arbitrage, but like, what's the vibe in Colorado? Because I know Colorado is absolutely like a place where you get kind of a representation from both kind of ends of the spectrum. And then the fact that there's a lot of folks from, the Midwest, Texas, kind of always interacting. Can you kind of tell us what's like the on the ground update from Colorado/Denver?
Sure. So I've been in Denver since August of last year. I was one of the few people that were moving out of Florida as opposed to moving into Florida. So when you look at Denver, if we're talking about mask mandates, it varies county by county. So sometimes you're at 25%, you can be all the way up to 50 or 75%. Denver, and then there's Colorado, and then there's Boulder. Very different. Boulder is probably one of the most liberal places you could be in the US. So if we're talking strictly about Colorado or Denver, things generally are trending back to normal. If we're looking at office occupancy. People are starting to come back into the office. So things seem to be getting normal, but that could change like that.
Gotcha. So things are trending to normal. It's just kind of interesting to see how things, how these decisions are made. So thanks for that. Kind of going back to, what we were talking about in terms of like, I guess Texas as well as Casey. We were talking about. I'm totally blanking right now.
This is Bitcoin Magazine Happy Hour. We've had a few.
Yeah.
CK.
We're some drinks in.
I'm only one in, but man, that was just a flop right there.
Dude, have another.
Well, we were talking about Texas, UBI. We were talking about a few things.
Yeah. Oh yeah, UBI is just hastening the transition, right?
Yes.
Making it like a pillow. Instead of like that hard
I don't think
brick
it's going to be a pillow.
It's like
I think it's going to be
pillow.
highway robbery. I think it's just going to be highway robbery.
Yeah, no one talks about the fact that in order to make UBI possible through printing, they're just making what they can purchase with the UBI more expensive, right? So it's like, are you even really getting any value out of the UBI at some point?
Kind of. The U.S. is in an interesting position. We have been for since Bretton Woods almost, where we had that agreement to be the world reserve currency, which is good and a bad thing. I don't know if you guys know about like the Thevin dilemma, but basically, since we are the world reserve currency, the dollar is artificially strong, so we can buy up the world's exports for our paper, but our domestic manufacturing base and all our jobs disappear. So we can buy all China stuff. We can, we have that luxury, but it screws over the middle class to an extent. So UBI could work it probably will work great for a year, 2 years, who knows how long. We're the largest debtor nation in the world, but once the trust is broken, or say, our competitors adopt a Bitcoin standard, we're
the gig is
we
up.
have no leg to stand on.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys saw right before
Who do
we
you mean
jumped
by
on.
competitors?
Say that again, Katie. Sorry, I missed it.
Who do you mean by competitors?
Oh.
Russia.
But right before we jumped on, Arthur Hayes returned for his second blog post, and it's a doozy. It's like 8,000 words. It's like a 30-minute read, but he goes into macro econ Bitcoin, conversation, and he just dives straight into like treasury bonds and the Bretton Woods issues and the petrodollar and all that kind of stuff. So it's a really good read. I was reading it right before we started. One thing that I think is interesting, Dylan, that you talked about is like, the Thevin dilemma and keeping the dollar weak in order to, make it easier to do trade. Lynn Alden actually had a really interesting point that was kind of the reverse, which is that, in order to get dollars to these other countries, we had to outsource manufacturing and run crazy trade deficits. And it was actually, kind of the cause was the effect. And that was like how we were able to export the dollar, was by running crazy trade deficits and being in debt to all these other countries. And then the later effect of that was that we ended up having to outsource manufacturing as we were, pouring our money elsewhere, and instead of being, pouring it into U.S. manufactured goods. So, I think it's a really interesting point, but an inevitability when you have the global reserve currency.
I think that's the point of the Thevin dilemma. Is like that's what happens.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Katie, what was that?
I just said that you could also UBI on other countries too. Might as well,
Yeah.
Since you're exporting so much dollars.
True.
Well,
just airdrop
so there's this term called
shitcoin.
There's this term called the Cantillon effect, and like you can kind of see the Cantillon effect on the map, right? So the Cantillon effect is those closer to the money printer, like reap the fruit of the money printer. So like like if you get paid in dollars, you are in a better place than if you're not getting paid for in dollars. And like, Mexico and Canada are like better off than countries that are geographically further away from the US. And I would argue everyone in the US getting paid in dollars, doing whatever they're doing, is in a better position than like someone in a different country doing that same thing, not getting paid directly in dollars. So
we export our inflation.
yeah, I mean, I think, if we
Yeah,
UBI
and
here,
now
we're
you
going to be
said,
dumping on everyone else too. Like, maybe the citizens of the US will get dunked on, but it's going to be less so.
yeah, and now
People
you
have to
start
get their
questioning the
sats.
stacking sats ability. Like that regular teacher in school in my hometown is probably getting like $200 a month. So how much she can stack, huh? What's the coin distribution because of all that too?
Wait, $200 a
So,
month, like salary? What?
Yeah, $200 a month is a normal salary for a teacher in my hometown, or a cashier. Yeah, cashier would
in
be more than
Russia.
that.
In Russia?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
not in Miami.
I thought you were talking about
I mean,
California. I was like, man, they're really expediting this have fun staying poor thing. Jeez.
but yeah, I mean, one thing that Anthony Scaramucci said on the Bitcoin Magazine podcast is like, once your competitors adopt Bitcoin, whatever your competitors are, whether it's other funds or other countries or other businesses, like you're now short Bitcoin because you're competing against someone that's long Bitcoin. So unless you have an equivalent Bitcoin position, you're competing from a different kind of position in the Bitcoin hierarchy, if you will. So I mean, that can take effect into pretty large entities like countries, which would be really insane to watch.
Yeah, imagine being I don't know who their competitors are, but imagine MicroStrategy's competitors a year ago versus today. Completely different
Yeah.
game.
They've disintegrated since. There are none.
Exactly.
Did Michael
MicroStrategy could
Saylor,
just buy them all out.
or did he just laser eyes them?
I think so. Casey, you have some great fish back there. I just want to say that. I see them running around
Thanks, man.
back and forth.
Yeah, they're pretty nice.
They're active.
A couple of big sucker fish in there, and a couple of good guppies, I think they call them. So
Nice.
Yeah.
So I'm curious what's Dylan's opinion on this. What would you say is MicroStrategy's business right now? When you buy MicroStrategy stock, are you just buying Bitcoin exposure for the most part? Like, what's the deal in your opinion?
I bought like some MicroStrategy, like started buying August 11th when they first allocated. But in general, I mean, I'm just interested in owning businesses that can spit off free cash flow and hold Bitcoin. So, I mean, they're a business intelligence firm. I mean, I haven't done too much research looking into that, but they have access to capital markets. Saylor can raise at 0%. And like, I don't think it's an attractive buy now, more so now than it was at 1300 or whatever. But yeah, I mean, if you're a business and you can, you have profit margins and you can stack sats, yeah, I'll allocate. But I mean, I'd rather probably just hold Bitcoin in most cases. But yeah, like 0% rates, you have a lot of zombie companies that are just, they're only surviving because of the money spigot. So Bitcoin kind of flips that on its head, brings back capitalism, which is, a good thing. But yeah, I mean, MicroStrategy, I don't think it's too attractive right now, but just, they can make money. And so they're stacking.
Yeah, I think. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think it's interesting to think about like the MicroStrategy stock price prior to acquiring Bitcoin and then after. And I think you can see the difference in value.
I got a question. So MicroStrategy, they have two core objectives. I listened to the past two earnings calls. I'm not a customer, but listen to the earnings calls are pretty telling. And I attended the MicroStrategy World Conference. Two strategies. Be a leader in enterprise business intelligence and stack sats. Those are the two known objectives that Wall Street knows them to do. So my question is, they put their entire treasury into Bitcoin. And like Dylan said, they are putting essentially, it's almost like monthly. I don't know if it's quarterly. I haven't tracked like how often it's happening, but any like once a month or once, maybe twice a quarter, they're putting free cash flow into Bitcoin. So, I mean, like, I feel like market set, they've allocated all this capital to Bitcoin. So they're probably going to be like somewhat correlated to Bitcoin's price, but the upside is that they're going to continue to accumulate more Bitcoin, at a way bigger clip than I could, of course. So, I mean, like, could they theoretically outperform Bitcoin because now they're stacking so much more Bitcoin?
The convertible notes play is actually genius. I mean, it's a cheat code. So
free money.
Speculative attack.
Yeah.
it is a cheat code. Michael Saylor's laughing in the Federal Reserve's face and then saying, "Oh, I'm not attacking the dollar." It's awesome.
Yeah, I think there's something respectable about just straight up borrowing money and buying Bitcoin with it. And I think everyone's going to look back at that as like some sort of historical move, right? Just a massive speculative attack on the US dollar.
I smell an article coming out of somebody on this fucking panel.
Is this like a trend though? Like, is this trend inevitable? That's what I mean. I think before I had my embarrassing blank, I was saying that, companies can't, or countries and companies, they can't just do this stupid shit now that Bitcoin exists. Like, they're always going to have to deal with Bitcoin as an option. And the speculative attack kind of is like Michael Saylor, calling the Fed's bluff. He's saying, "Oh, you're going to just let me do this? Okay. All right, I'll do it. I'll keep doing it."
Yeah, I think you could expect more, right? Why not? I think
mean,
as soon as anyone sees the profitability and the success that Michael Saylor will see and has been seeing, I think they'll do the exact same thing.
I mean, every C-suite, like every executive team in the country, in the world, all they're trying to do is pump their stock. I mean, that's why, like, for the last decade, all they've done is borrowed money and bought back their stock. They all have, the whole executive team has stock options. They make out like bandits and ditch, leave the company. So when you see MicroStrategy's trading at $150 and now they're at like 600, 700, whatever, but they almost 10x their stock in like 5 months, and now it's like 4 or 5x. But there's a lot of people, a lot of teams that are scratching their head and saying, okay, this guy's onto something. And maybe it's not 100% of their balance sheet, but yeah, like Tesla, 10% of their cash, like, and you have like $100 trillion bond market that's at zero basically. And so Saylor says, okay, we'll issue at zero. We'll also, there's a convertible note, so there's a kind of a call option play where you can have like a 30% equity premium, and it's MicroStrategy's decision. And you have all these bond investors who have no yield that says, all right, well, there's that kind of that call option. We'll take it. He was oversubscribed twice. And like $1 billion bond offerings is nothing. I mean, nothing. Like Apple has 200 billion cash. So it's definitely going to continue. It's going to happen not only at a corporate level, it's going to happen at a commercial bank level and eventually a central bank level. And that's when it gets nuts.
Bullish. This system that they set up, it's going to just fuck them right over. And it's kind of a beautiful thing.
I mean, isn't that what the fiat system is? It's just borrowing and borrowing and pretending and like, I wonder like what happens when no fiat currencies are able to get you any sats. I mean, I don't know what year that will be, but the gig is up.
I think that's sooner than we think.
That's what I'm saying. When I hear Dylan over here bearish about UBI saying that it gives us 1 or 2 or 3 years, I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, we need those years. We need them. We need to get on that other side of the fence safely. with some My Pillows.
I want to get predictions on sat cent parity.
Sat cent
Sat
parity.
Cent? You
Or
like
sat
jump
dollar
dollar?
parity.
Okay.
Or sat dollar parity. I
Dollar
mean, like,
What
parity.
about Sat Benjamin parody? Blue Hundreds.
What would the market cap have to be? Does anyone have that number off the top of their head?
what
For dollar?
sat cent is
For
100
dollar
million.
parity.
Or no, that's it's just a million. Sat cent is $1 million Bitcoin. Sat dollar parity is $100 million
$100
Bitcoin.
million Bitcoin?
I like the $1 million number.
Yeah, so sat cent parity. All right, let's go with you, Joe. You start.
Okay. I think that we are going to break stock to flow to the upside. And I have no research to say this except for my gut. And my gut has never done me good. But I think that we could probably see it in the next 5 years.
I think that's fair.
All right. 5 years. Casey.
Uh,
$1 million
for-
Bitcoin in the next 5 years. 2026.
I'm an optimist, so I say within 2 years at the very most. I mean, I because things happen faster than a lot of people expect, especially
out, Mike,
inflation.
I
Say it.
agree. I thought I was going faster than expected, but I like your style.
No, hardcore.
Doesn't have much
Who
money
wants to throw their hat in?
I think on April 20th of 2023, we will hit $1 million BTC.
That's fair.
At 6:15 a.m. Central Time.
Literally, what world are we living in at that point? Like that's a crazy ass world.
Thevin,
All right,
what do you
who's
think?
next?
I hate to be the most bearish one so far, but I think there's going to be some bullshit that the central banks can pull to allow at least one more bull cycle following this recession. And maybe we get through 7 to 10 years from now, and we have central banks beginning to buy and hold. I think that's probably the 2030.
I don't like it because it seems like you know the most, and that scares me.
Yeah, but the
No,
bearish thing is
so-
9 years, so we're looking at like 2 to 9 year span here.
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna try this great reset, right, in March, I think, which is this month, maybe next month. We don't know what that's gonna look like. We don't know if they're going to try to, if the U.S. will maybe try to buy back gold at a higher number to juice those rates, get the debt down, and then roll over into Sats. Who knows? But that's worst case scenario is 2030. Let's say that.
Okay, so I think we have some bulls here. Like most people so far have said that this is the last cycle. So I hope you all aren't trying to sell the top, if that is in fact true. But Dylan, Katie, I guess Katie, what's your sat cent parity projection? $1 million Bitcoin.
Well, I'm doing sats per ruble. And in order to hit sats per ruble, like sats ruble parity, we just need to do 29x, which is like easy. And yeah, I guess we already hit the sats per like cent of Russian ruble. So we also divide Russian ruble to 100. So we already did that. So I'm doing good.
Let's go. Each one has their own fiat, currency that they need to crush with Bitcoin. I think probably the dollar will be the last, but not that far behind. Mitch, have you given your sat cent prediction yet?
No, so I think you could see it briefly in the next 6 months, say. But I think like it goes over the line. So if in 4 years, we have Bitcoin Magazine Happy Hour number 13 reunion, and we're gonna be a sat cent parody. You can book
I like it.
That's what we need. We need specific happy hour reunions. We're bringing back the
March.
same exact people.
I love that.
March
That's the
4th,
thing.
2025.
All right,
Oh,
let me
yeah.
mark the calendar.
When the dollar is completely crushed, what is like left? Like, does toilet paper then become the most valuable thing in existence beside Bitcoin? I think we've
The
seen.
good thing is none of us will care because we will be self sufficient. Like we've read sovereign individuals, we know what to do. Our house is gonna, serve itself. We're gonna have chickens. We're gonna have cows. We're gonna be just fine.
Lots
Damn,
of cows.
Agreed.
optimistic.
Dylan, you haven't given your
Dylan.
prediction yet.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there's a non-zero, like I don't know the probability. I think there's a non-zero chance it happens this year. But probably before 2025. I mean, it honestly depends what the Fed does. Like right now, the bond market's kind of shitting itself. But if there's a big market sell off, not just Bitcoin, but just in general, the Fed comes out and probably implements yield curve control, which means like QE is we're buying $100 billion of bonds a month, and at any price. And yield curve control is we're buying at this price any amount of dollars. It doesn't matter, theoretically infinite. So if they said, hey, we're going to peg yields, we're going to peg the 10-year at 50 basis points, then that literally there could be unlimited credit creation. And so all it takes is a couple Michael Saylors, a commercial bank, and they can literally borrow unlimited amount of dollars to stack. And so or like, I mean, it doesn't have to be in the US. Like, for example, the Swiss National Bank for the last, I don't know how many years, has been printing Swiss francs, selling them for dollars, and then buying US equities. They have Tesla. I think they have like some MicroStrategy. Like they buy US tech stocks with money that they printed in their local currency. And that weakens their currency, which makes their exports attractive. So could the Swiss National Bank print dollars or print francs to buy Bitcoin? Yeah, of course they probably will. Will Iran do it with their currency? Probably. And so I think it can happen really, really fast. And I don't know the timeline, but the end of the long-term debt cycle combined with Bitcoin's growth and adoption curve is really, really interesting.
I mean, to add on top, go for it.
Well, I was just gonna say something that I hadn't really thought about until you were just saying that is when you think broadly about company or countries weakening their currency, they usually weaken it in relation to another currency. But one thing that I guess I haven't appreciated is like because Bitcoin is so scarce and it has this hard cap. It's like even when Switzerland say uses the franc to buy Bitcoin and weakens the franc against Bitcoin, it also in effect weakens the dollar against Bitcoin because there just aren't enough Bitcoins to go around. That there's those fewer Bitcoins for the U.S. dollars to buy, and then it's just like it's kind of a vicious cycle like that.
Yeah, I mean, all major central banks have been for the last I don't know how many years, but they like their incentive was to print money and buy dollars, and they hold those in their foreign exchange reserves, and that makes their exports attractive. But dollars or now that they're holding T-bills, that's not attractive to hold when there's no yield. So I mean, you have this rocket ship, which is Bitcoin, which is going parabolic. I mean, central bankers, yeah, their heads stuck in the mud a little bit, but they're not that dumb. And so, I mean, they may be slow, but they'll buy at any price, and they'll stack hard as fuck at 500,000. They don't care. I mean, they're price agnostic. They just print.
Yeah, I think that's something special to like consider is that for us, the higher Bitcoin goes, the more out of reach it is. But for some entities, doesn't matter what price Bitcoin is, as long as the credit market exists, there's going to be people able to acquire Bitcoin, and that will just continue to push the price higher.
They can't acquire my Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I guess I'll give my quick prediction, which is I kind of agree with what other people have said. I think there's a non-zero chance we see a $1 million Bitcoin price this year. I think that what we might probably see is that blow off phase where the markets become like too hot even to arbitrage, and you'll see it kind of in some places, but you won't see it in other places, and that'll probably be like a pretty good top indicator. What I want to do though is I want to kind of flip the question. At what price and what amount of market participation do you think, on the flip side, the Fed has to step in to prevent Bitcoin from crashing because there's too many financial, companies or institutions invested in Bitcoin that would be screwed if it crashed?
Bail out Bitcoin
How do they step in?
Buy Bitcoin.
by printing a gajillion dollars and buying Bitcoin and then enacting Bitcoin UBI.
Yeah, I think part of that question is like this: the first step of when does the Fed acquire Bitcoin? Because if you're going to bail out companies on a Bitcoin standard, you need Bitcoin to do that. So at some point, the Federal Reserve, I guess the prior to that price where the Federal Reserve decides it's necessary to step in, there's a price where the Federal Reserve decides it's necessary to stack sats, right?
Yeah. When does an inherently inflationary thing admit that it sucks and turn the other? Yeah.
Well, like I think it was Dylan who was saying, bankers aren't stupid. I mean, anyone who looks at it long enough and sees it long enough, I think they'll come to a certain conclusion, whatever it is. And I think we'll see more and more capitulation. A lot of people would have never thought of these big banks right now that are talking about Bitcoin, talking about it. And I think we're going to see more surprises as that time goes on and as more people decide that they're not too good for Bitcoin.
So I did some math. Bitcoin was around $1,000 this point in the cycle in 2017. So I just took the current price, multiplied it by 20, and that puts us around $900,000. So maybe $1 million for Bitcoin in this cycle is not that crazy. Obviously, that is like not rock solid analysis whatsoever. But I mean, just trying to put one and two together, connect some dots here, put things into perspective. Like, it's not that crazy. I put out a podcast with Bitcoin Tina, the hardest trade, kind of talking about like this time is different. Bitcoin is a legitimate asset. So I could see us hitting $1 million this cycle, dipping down, and that dip just kind of getting gobbled up and kind of grinding up forever after that. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just bullish nonsense, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's extrapolating off of the economic environment of 2017, right? So imagine adding all the conditions that make 2021 and 2020 special. I think, 900K doesn't sound too bad.
I think what a lot of people don't understand, especially like my normie friends or whatever, like people not in the Bitcoin echo chamber, is Bitcoin becomes more investable the bigger it gets. It's like the opposite of an equity. It's like it's less risky the larger it becomes, and like people can't really comprehend that. But as money grows, I mean, as Bitcoin has a larger market cap, it becomes more liquid, it becomes more investable. Like Apple can't touch 10K Bitcoin. It probably can't even touch 50K Bitcoin. But at 100K, they'll dabble in it. At 500K, like these sovereign wealth funds have to buy, and they don't place a limit order. They allocate it, like they're price agnostic. And so that's the thing that like I think a lot of people can't wrap their head around.
Yeah, Dylan, you're actually helping me wrap my head around this new paradigm right now. But like, the whole price agnostic market participants, that is the new aspect of this market. Like, we haven't had that before. It's been retail, it's been people who, care whether the price is going up or down and will buy and sell based off of that. And, I'm a believer in like the stock to flow from the standpoint of, the halving and buying up newly mined coins is kind of what pops the bubble when it gets so expensive and miners start flooding the market with their coins. But it's like, if people don't care about that and they're just going to continue to, get their free credit, that is an unstoppable kind of system. Like, that's where the water starts going downhill and you can't stop it.
Yeah, it's like if Apple buys it, every public company that has cash available almost has to buy it. Like then it becomes acceptable and you almost like need to do it. Otherwise, you start to look foolish. If Apple and Amazon do it, say, then like everyone kind of has to do it. And same thing with central banks, and they're not trading it for a profit. They're not on Coinbase trading shit coins to try to get more Bitcoin. They're just buying it because they need it.
And they'll never sell. Like
Right.
like for us, like the average pleb, it's like, all right, I'll sack, and then you like, oh, I paid off my mom's mortgage, and like that's awesome. But like when a sovereign wealth fund buys Bitcoin, they will never ever sell it ever. Like not flipping it for a house. Like you're buying it for 1,000 years. You're putting in a trust and never touching it. Maybe you borrow against it if the dollar is still around or whatever. But like, it's not a trade for them. It's like
It's survival. It's like hedging.
Now you buy it, you lock it on Lightning, and you make yield, and you leave off of it.
Yeah, I guess to go back to like the original question of if there's a price that the Fed is forced to buy at or intervene at, I think it's more of like, is there an action in which the Fed is forced to pay attention to, right? And I think for me personally, in my opinion, like you said, Apple, any of the FANG stocks buying Bitcoin on their Treasury Reserve asset sheet, I think that's the action that makes the Fed pay attention, right? Any of the FANG stocks would be.
When is that?
If you're asking my opinion, my prediction, which I don't like to predicting, but probably within the year, at least one, right?
So
Tesla's
we
pretty
have
big.
Federal Reserve FOMOing within 18 months.
Yeah, because I consider Tesla a relatively large company, and if a FANG stock follows their lead, even at the same level they did, I think that will draw attention from the Fed, no matter what.
Well, one of the FANG stocks, the N is Nvidia, but people have called the other N as Netflix, and there's a lot of rumors around Netflix being the next to allocate. I was just listening to like a philosophy on Netflix management, and like the company at its root has always been like unconventional and almost libertarian, if you will, in terms of like their policy internally and their kind of like give freedom and allow your employees to have more responsibility. So there is kind of this alignment with Bitcoin. So I wouldn't be shocked from a philosophical perspective if it aligned with their management team. Anyone, keen on these rumors? Haven't heard from Thevin again for a minute. But yeah, anyone who's up to date, feel free to jump in.
So I'm not up to date on that, but I'm curious as a side note, if we're going from the first they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win, have we gotten through, or have we even begun to see the fight you face? I feel like CBDCs are going to be their kind of final bastion against Bitcoin, and that whether they try to fork Bitcoin and centralize it or what have you, what are we going to see?
That's a scary question.
It is.
We're still in peacetime Bitcoin. I mean, we haven't seen the state draw a line in the sand, and it will happen when their power is at jeopardy. We will see a line in the sand, and Katie, yes, Bitcoiners will say, fuck you. And hopefully there's so many hodlers at that point that we collectively can say, fuck you, and it really matter. But yeah, I'm with you. It's hard to know when it's going to happen, but we haven't seen aggression from the state. That's my opinion. I know there's been some legislation, the bit license and some non-favorable bullshit, but you haven't seen the state's full force in action. So I think us as Bitcoiners need to always be thinking adversarially and, protect your keys, get that shit off exchange. Yeah, I hate to always come back to it, but not your keys, not your coins. And, even if you have a little, consider taking it off exchange and custodying it yourself, and look at multi-signature, ways to hold your keys. Don't put all your keys in one basket. So, I think it's something to think about. The state is vile and they're super aggressive. They have a printing press that allows them to make things without really paying for them. So that means guns and bullets and drones. So protect yourself, protect your wealth, and just keep stacking. The state is the enemy at this point.
Damn, that was
I like it.
just a lot.
Yeah, I
I
like it.
stand by it. I stand by it for sure. That's very much the Bitcoin ethos. In terms of like, just stacking sats, keeping it off exchange, being anti-fragile. I think that is really key too. So a big part of Joe's message. But yeah, I mean, I still kind of want to talk about, this idea of, what happens, right? When, so I asked you, Thevin, like whether we're in peacetime Bitcoin or not, like, is there even gonna be a chance, right? Like I kind of see this world where like Bitcoin outpaces even aggression against it. Like it's at some point, like everyone is just gonna take care of themselves. The incentive to align with value accrual is gonna just it's gonna be too much of a no-brainer. Like so I'm kind of curious, like does the then they fight you stage, like does that just kind of go over our heads? And maybe that's just optimistic. I don't know.
No,
I
that's what I'm thinking as well. If you wanted to stop Bitcoin, you had to do it 2 years after launch. You had to do it by 2010, 2011 if you wanted any hope. At this point, I think Bitcoin is so spread out, and with some of the implementations we have between CoinJoin, the future coin swap, and some of the other privacy enhancing tools, I think it would be a losing battle. It'd be like in 2017 when China banned Bitcoin and it went from 1,000 to 20,000. So I lean more toward it's too late.
Not to mention,
only-
the richest man in the world is a Bitcoiner. Like that's a pretty powerful ally, and it only takes a few of those kind of super influential people that the government would have to be okay with, like decimating some people who are very influential in the formation and the runnings of the government. So I kind of agree.
Yeah, and we have
But also-
Bitcoiners in government already, and with millennials. I mean, millennials understand Bitcoin better than anyone else because we got the great financial crisis in 2008, and now we're getting smacked with COVID-19. I mean, as soon as those millennials move into government, game's over.
And not only is it spread out, but hodlers' just level of conviction is so much higher than anything else. I mean, they could try to ban a lot of things and it would probably work without that much pushback. But if you try to ban Bitcoin at this point, there's going to be just mega pushback.
Yeah. Super bullish on hodlers, but also like those are two different attack vectors we're talking about. Attack on Bitcoin is trying to stop it as a network. We know it's absolutely impossible. Attack on Bitcoiners, it's much easier to do, and they are violent and they do have tools. So just make sure to consider that the attack vectors that might be relevant for you, for your family, your loved ones, and your security model, and make sure you run those scenarios through your head. Talk with your family about it. Like consider bug outs, consider second password, consider defense mechanism, consider the exit strategy in terms of just like the meeting point that you would have for your family if one of you have to run. The point of communication, the email that none of you ever used before unless something happens. So like just make sure to take care of your security, physical security. That's always what it comes down to.
As American, it just seems so foreign to even question and say these ideas out loud, Katie. And I think that is super dangerous for us as Americans because we've lived this cush life, state's been good to us, especially the bros on this show right now. I know it isn't the case for everyone here in America, but what I'm trying to say is like, you have to think about these things. It might be uncomfortable, but make a plan. It's one of those asymmetric bets. Put a plan in place. And if you have to use it, that's great. Like you got a plan in place, but if you don't use it, what is the trade-off? Like a couple hours and some mental bandwidth. It just makes a lot of sense to go through some of these mental models and think about, what the fuck you're going to do if the state does something bad. And it just makes sense to go through that.
and history repeats itself, right? In 1934, gold was confiscated. Wouldn't surprise me if they try to confiscate Bitcoin. So get it off exchanges, use the privacy tools, Whirlpool, CoinJoin, have some operational security. It's worth the time it takes to learn about it.
And Signal for Taproot.
Yes.
What true?
That was the
yeah,
flag thing.
That's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, are we going there?
Well,
No, we're not going there.
No, we're not.
We don't have time.
What I
Long
was gonna
panel.
say though is, we were talking a second ago about like companies adopting Bitcoin. On the flip side of it, a really bullish fact or factor in companies adopting Bitcoin is that once they have a bunch of Bitcoin on their balance sheet, it behooves them to start doing their business in Bitcoin. And I think that that's also like a really interesting, you see MicroStrategy trying to implement, Bitcoin into its core, business model. But, when we're talking about an Apple or an Amazon that might be sitting on billions of dollars in Bitcoin, the best way that they can kind of manage that is to have people being able to pay for their products in Bitcoin, for them to be able to pay their employees in Bitcoin. Like all of that kind of stuff starts opening up that, and then, once that starts opening up, the circular economy emerges super quickly, especially if you get more and more, Tesla-esque buy a Tesla with Bitcoin type opportunities coming on board. I think that's a really bullish fact too. I know it was
Nothing
off
is
topic,
more
sorry.
bullish than nothing more bullish than big companies buying Bitcoin. Nothing more bullish than plebs outpacing them, front running them. And the best thing, Matt Odell likes to chime on this, they have to announce it if they're public companies. So, I mean, educate yourself and you can front run these public companies for the first time. And it's awesome. It's awesome to be in this position for sure. Guys, this has not been one of my best shows, so I apologize about that, but y'all killed it. I really enjoyed this one. I think it's getting about that time to wrap it up. So I guess I'm gonna throw it to Joe. We'll do a last word for everyone, but Joe, kick us off.
Guys, stack sats, stay humble, protect yourself, think about yourself, be selfish out there, hug a loved one, get outside, don't wear a mask, fuck the state, resist. What else? Decentralize all the things, run a node, keep reading, click links, buy your ticket, prices go up. So let's fucking go. And I'm gonna popcorn to my good friend. Who am I gonna pass it to? Mitch.
Vanilla Porter, Joe's favorite. Yeah, stay humble, stack sats. Thanks for having me on. It's been a really good time, and I'll see y'all in Miami.
Let's go. See you in
Now
Miami.
you have to pass it.
I'll bring some vanilla porta for you, Drew.
Fuck that.
Let's go, Tommy.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna show the conference also. Again, obviously, get your ticket this week because the number goes up. And as far as general admission tickets goes, it's a predictable price rise, so you want to buy low. Yeah, get your ticket this week, Bran, and then we got to go round the horn again. What can you offer that doesn't have to do with the conference as last words?
I would just like to say, go outside. It feels so good. Like it's March, guys. The winter is like ending and it makes me so happy because I hate winter. I hate cold. I love hot and I love sun. And I think hot and sun are very bullish for the world in general. So, go outside, enjoy the weather. It's a beautiful world. And we're all lucky to be living in it and living in this time where we can take advantage of the biggest opportunity the world has ever seen. Popcorn, Katie.
So I am. I'm going to be selling Miami since you're all showing the conference. I'm going to be showing Miami. Miami is hella awesome. I went to sunrise today. I went to sunset today. It's absolutely amazing. And if you want to see it with your own eyes, come over to Bitcoin 2021. All right, popcorn to Thevin. whose name I learned how to pronounce.
Just want to say thanks for having me. I know I'm not as attractive as my wife, but appreciate you guys having me on. And, Bitcoin's on sale, 46.8. Stack some sats.
Sounds like a dip to me.
I'm going to pass it over to Case. Has Casey gone?
No.
Go for it.
Thank you.
Casey, then Dylan, and that's it.
Yeah. Chill the conference, go to Bitcoin Miami. Super excited to be on today. Thanks for having me, everyone. Just make sure to stack sats. It's probably the most important thing. And I liked what Brand said about being bullish on the outside world. I'm pretty bullish on the outside world too. So go outside, go on a hike. It's a good time. It makes your head clearer for when you're stacking sats. So
Let's go. All right, guys. That's it. Promo
Dylan.
code Satoshi, 10% off. Meet all of these
let's give
fools
Dylan
in Miami.
a second to
Oh,
say
shit.
goodbye and send us
All
off.
good. Good talk.
Again, you got to close it out.
Send
Doing
us
a terrible
off,
job.
Dylan.
Dylan,
Final
close
word,
it out.
Dylan. Send us off into the sunset, my
Good.
friend.
Bullish on sovereignty, bullish on Bitcoiners, bullish on Bitcoin Miami, Bitcoin 2021. Good talk.
Hell yeah.
All right,
as good as it gets.
Appreciate